Hi everybody, we're going to be talking about 8th grade Common Core notes for lesson 1.4. We're going to be rewriting equations and formulas. We're going to use what we already know about solving 1, 2, and multi-step equations to solve for a specific variable in each of the 4 examples. In the first example, we have 2y plus 5x equals 6. We are solving for y. So our goal is to move all the terms away from y and then isolate the variable. In our first step, we're going to add negative 5x to both sides. We are now left with 2y equals 6 minus 5x. And then I need to isolate the variable. 2 and y are being multiplied, so I divide both sides by 2. And when I divide both sides by 2, every term on the other side of the equation needs to be divided by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and negative 5 divided by 2 is negative 5 halves x. We've gone ahead and we've moved the 5x to the other side by subtracting or adding a negative, and then we've isolated the variable by dividing by 2. It's very important that you divide each term on the other side by 2. In example 2, we're going to be solving for the variable L. S equals, or surface area, equals pi r squared plus pi r L. So I'm going to move away the term that is being added to that, and I'm going to have s to both sides, negative pi r squared. So I have s minus pi r squared is equal to what is remaining left on the other side, which is pi r to the L. And then I need to figure out what is being multiplied by L, and it's pi and r. So therefore I have to divide both sides by pi r. And again, I divide every term on the other side by pi r. Those are now canceled. I'm left with L length. And then because s and pi cannot be divided, I can just leave it as this is my final answer. It's important for you to know that I cannot cancel out these pi's because pi is not in both of the terms, it's only in one of the terms. Up here, 6 could be divided by 2 and negative 5x could be divided by 2, so I separated them. But because it cannot, I keep them together in example 2. In example 3, I'm solving for f. I could go ahead, distribute, and then do what I did before by going ahead and moving the terms, or I could go ahead and multiply both sides by 9/5 to get rid of the multiplying by 5/9. So I now have 9/5 c is equal to f minus 32. Because f is being subtracted by 32, I add 32 to both sides to go ahead and isolate my variable. I am now left with f is equal to 9/5 c plus 32. What I've done is I've, within the parentheses, 5/9 was being multiplied, so I multiplied by the reciprocal to get rid of my 5/9, and then I added 3/2 on the other side. For example 4, I need to go ahead and solve for v. So v is being multiplied by 3 and divided by h. So what I can do is the opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. The opposite of dividing by h is multiplying by h. So I can multiply both sides by h to the third, or h over 3, which means those cancel and those canceled, which is leaving me v on one side. So b times h over 3. I'm going to give you an alternative method for example 3. If I go back to my original and I have c equals 5/9 times f minus 32, I could go ahead and do this. 5/9 f minus 10, 15, 1/69. I could do that. And then I could add 1/69 to both sides. And then I'm left with 5/9 f equals c plus 1/69. And then I could go ahead and divide both sides by 5/9, which is the same as multiplying it, by 9/5. And then I would go ahead and I would have to distribute it again. And that gets really messy with those fractions. I mean, I'm going to get the same answer. F is still going to be, when I go ahead and cancel them out, I would get 9/5 C, because I'm distributing, plus 1/69 times 9/5 is 32. But this was more math than I wanted to do, even though I got the same answer. So, for these 4 examples, if I write it down, you write it down. If you have questions as to why I did something, please ask a clarifying question. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the first 2 examples so you can see them. You need to make sure that you've copied all that down. The second way I solved example 3 is not necessarily needed to be written down. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks. Make sure that you're coming prepared to discuss this, and have a good one.